And with that, let's bring in Spencer Davies here. Summer League is a grind, Spencer, and you are the last Cavaliers beat reporter still in Vegas. So first off, kudos for you for surviving what is seemingly the longest 2 weeks of the summer. But you were at the game last night. The Cavs fell to the Warriors B squad, 96-85. I'll be honest, I did not stay up to watch the game. I watched some highlights this morning. But Spencer, what was your big takeaway from last night's loss to the Golden State Warriors?
Well, the first unit really didn't do much. It was a lot of the twos that came in and picked up the pace a little bit. You're obviously seeing Craig Porter Jr. focus on shooting threes a lot more, whether that's off the ball, catch shoots. A lot of the teams that are guarding him right now are going underneath the screens. So he's taking those and doing a good job of at least letting them fly, something that we didn't really see much of, at last season. But Emoni Bates, another thing too with him was second half really started to find his rhythm after first half. He said, these guys were playing him real physical. Daquan Plowden was really up into his shirt and doing a lot different things that he hasn't seen yet. And, if you see the videos that Jordan Ott was talking about, he was, kind of mentioning that Emoni hasn't seen those types of defenses before, and he hasn't seen that kind of ball pressure. So Emoni's got to kind of get into gear in that sense and learn how to deal with that type of ball pressure and when guys are pushing him off of his spot. Because when Emoni is on making a decision, then he's in a good spot, right? Couple dribbles, maybe a floater off the top of the glass, trail threes, all of that. But when he plays with his food, so to speak, or if he's dribbling around, that's when he gets into the most trouble. So I think those two were the points that stuck out to me from yesterday. But collectively, just kind of like game one, did not come out prepared as far as the top lineup goes, and the second unit picked it up.
Spencer, when you watch these summer league games, do you see any of these guys carving out a role? Like when you watch them play, you're like, all right, I can see this guy coming in during the regular season and having a role for the Cavs this season.
I think it's more or less in the G League context, to be honest, Ivis. Like it's really hard for these guys. All of these players come into summer league and they're doing an audition. It's not necessarily for the team that they're with. It's for the entire world, right? It's a giant basketball convention. You've got guys coming over from, France and from Israel and all over the world. And some of these guys are going to end up in the EuroLeague. Like this is what summer league is. But they're auditioning for their next team. They're auditioning for their next contract. In the case of the Cavs, I think we all know that the guard position is that guard room is way too big right now. So it's hard for some of these guys to crack it. But I do like what I've seen out of Dexter Dennis. I think he's come in and given them enough. Naquan Tomlin has done some nice things. Maybe he's auditioning for a role with the Charge or perhaps like Exhibit 10 or something like that. It's just kind of hard to crack the rotation when the roster is as deep as it is. But again, all these guys are auditioning for a spot in the NBA, in the G League, or overseas.
Spencer, what's your first impressions of Jaylon Tyson?
Of who?
Jaylon Tyson.
Oh, Jaylon Tyson. Oh, great question. Jaylon Tyson, to me, I see why the Josh Hart kind of ilk is kind of attached to his name, because he feels like a connector. That's the best way I can describe him. He does a little bit of everything. They had him bringing the ball up a lot. As I said, Craig Porter Jr., they're having him work a little off ball to see what he could look like, next to a Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland. So Jaylon's got the ball handling duty. And, he ended up with 4 assists last night. Probably could have been 6 or 7, but they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Jaylon, I think, has a really tenacity to make the right play and to, I would say, he's a hustler, too. He's a hustler. He's diving on the floor. He's playing, better defense than probably a lot of people expected, coming out of Cal. But he can do, like I said, he's a little bit of a Swiss Army in a way. And if they have him bringing the ball up and playmaking that way, I mean, he's about 6'6", 6'7". So that'd be like a big guard they could put next to guys. It's obviously going to be tough for him to crack this rotation, at least from a lot of playing time perspective. But I think that he's got athleticism. The jumper needs some work, just it's a little bit mechanical for me as far as form goes. But what I've seen from him because he's not been afraid of the moment. And, that's something that you can't really teach, and you can't teach that kind of passion and enthusiasm that he plays with as well.
Well, Spencer, I want to actually talk about his jumper because coming in, one of the concerns that a lot of fans and a lot of people had was that his jump shot is a little slower. Do you think that it's sped up a little bit since he's been in Summer League? Has he been working on it? And is it something that you think will be a problem, once the season comes around?
I think it is a work in progress, to be honest. Haven't seen him knock down that many. He's been putting it on the floor quite a bit, playing in transition. Haven't seen too many catch shoots from Jaylon. So that's, kind of interesting, especially because, the big conversation is the Cavs getting a wing and stuff like that. But I think on the big club, you're looking at guys like Max Strus and, Karis LeVert. You want to see the guys that they brought in really take that mantle more. And Jaylon Tyson is going to be more of a, can he crack the rotation? Can he get, 5 to 11 minutes, whatever it may be, depending on the night. So far in Summer League, haven't really seen too much of the jump shot, but he's gotten a couple of falls. And again, I think that his attitude that he plays with is really going to help him more than a three-point shot.
Spencer, speaking of the speed of a jump shot, Tyson's on the one hand looks a little slow. Emoni Bates seems to be sped up to the maximum, and that is a positive sign if you are in the Emoni Bates can contribute camp. Does it look as quick in person as it does in TV? And I know that people are like, that sounds dumb. It is different seeing a jump shot in person versus TV. I know it may not sound like it is, but is it as quick as it's actually looking from my seat as opposed to in the arena where you're sitting?
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. That thing gets up real quick. I think where he can really help them, and forget it if he misses 3 or 4 of these, but if they're good looks, I like when he takes trail threes, especially when this team's playing with pace. You know what Kenny Atkinson's going to want to do, up the tempo a bit. Emoni pulling up in transition, I think, is really tough to stop. And again, when it's in the half court, just make sure that he takes a couple dribbles and then makes a decision after that. Are you going to Are you going to pass it? Are you going to take a shot? Are you going to try to put it on the deck? I think he's gotten really, really solid at playmaking in this summer league. Just like Jaylon Tyson had a few that didn't, go down as far as the assist column goes. I think that Emoni could have had 2 or 3 more yesterday. And I think in game 2, you really saw those chops. And what I liked about Emoni was whether he got the rebound or he got the first pass off the rebound, he was looking up the floor. And when you're looking up the floor and you're pushing the pace and trying to get behind the defense, that's really advantageous. And he even told me when he gets other guys going, that gets his own game going. And that's kind of natural in basketball, to be honest. But he's looked really solid from that perspective and playing with pace. Had a tough first half last night, as I just discussed, because guys were pushing him off the spot. He said it almost looked like a box and one, and he hasn't really seen that yet. So I'm be interested to see how he responds tonight against the Lakers if they do play their normal guys, and I think they will just because of how the performance was yesterday against Golden State. But I like what Emoni has been doing just as far as working on that part of his game. We all know he can shoot. Jordan Knott said it the best. He's got to do the thing. He's got to make the right play every time down. He's got to make the right read. And, you got to contribute a rebound here or there. Got to get a rebound. You got to play some defense and take an individual assignment. You got to do that. So that's what he's learning. And I think that Jordan was very blunt about, kind of where he needs to go in order to find a role on this team.
In the game against Milwaukee, Luke Travers did everything you could hope for from a Luke Travers performance. The ultimate connector. He scored, he passed, he rebounded, he defended. He was in the right spot almost every single time. And then you go back and you check out the highlights from last night's game. He scored in the first 2 minutes of the game, didn't score again until midway through the fourth quarter. I was almost all in on the Luke Travers bandwagon after that Milwaukee game, and I'm not jumping off it by any means yet, but I did take a step back because, in my opinion, there's no excuse for a player of his caliber to go MIA and be invisible for 2.5 quarters in a summer league game. Is that fair or unfair, Spencer?
That's fair. It's fair. The way he's going to end up on this squad is if he can shoot the three. And he didn't take nearly enough. He wasn't aggressive enough as far as, attacking closeouts or getting off the dribble. He's got to do more. And you saw it in game 2, what he's capable of. So if he brings that same type of tenacity, being up the floor, catching, dunking, he's got a really nice game as far as his distributing ability is concerned as well. He goes up and gets rebounds. catches people off guard a little bit when he has the athleticism off of his 2 feet. So yeah, he needs to do more, and I think he knows that. And hopefully, you see that against LA. But I like Luke Travers. There's a reason that he's kind of close with Joe Ingles and looks up to Joe Ingles because Joe Ingles took a similar path. It took a while for Joe to come overseas too. So somebody like you said, another connector. And I know it feels like it's a broken record a little bit, but when you have versatility the way that this team does with those wings, then that's really important.
Spencer, I know that it's just summer league, but tonight obviously the Cavs play the Lakers, and we know Bronny is on that other team. Do you think it's going to be extra something there tonight between the two teams? Even Bronny going up against the Cavs or the Cavs going against LeBron's son?
I don't know if there's anything extra. I think that Bronny's just trying to find himself. And, I was there for his game yesterday, and it was nice to see him score the first bucket against Atlanta. Really nice, coming off of the screen, a little mid-ranger. I know he's been searching for it. He was 4 of 19 coming into that game last night, and it's been a really rough go for him. But, he had a couple of threes last night, scored 12 points. I'm sure he's going to be looking to build off of that momentum. But I don't know if there's anything extra. I think he's probably going to say, hey, it's cool. I'm going against, a team that I grew up watching and grew up on the sidelines against. But I don't think that there's any kind of, animosity or anything like that. And it's summer league. You're working on your game and you're, saying hi to people and chumming it up.
How'd you hit him at AC's golf outing, and did you contribute more than I did? And that's not a high bar.
Okay, Jay. So off the tee, a lot better than usual. Not great on the greens. Almost pretty much useful only within 120 yards. I did get a 200-yard GIR on a par 5, so I'll take that. But
all right.
it was a really rough go.
I literally gave my team, I think, 3 shots. That was it. That's all I'm good for. So you're a better golfer than I am. Congratulations.
Appreciate that, Jay.
Awesome. Spencer, appreciate you joining us this morning. Enjoy your last night in Vegas, and we'll see you back in Cleveland when you return from Summer League. That's Spencer Davies of the Cavs Insider. Spencer, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
See you.